What's going on, everybody? Josh Callaway alongside Collin Kennedy, Sooners Illustrated 24/7 Sports at M&G Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas, where Oklahoma's 2024 season came to an end in about the most fitting way possible. A disgusting, gross, embarrassing 21-20 loss to Navy. Oklahoma finishes 6-7 for the second time in 3 years. Collin, you're picking a hell of a game to have to make your instant reaction debut here. This was bad. This was bad. It was 14-0 Oklahoma in the blink of an eye. But really from that moment on, the final 3 quarters of this game were as bad as Oklahoma's had all season, frankly. They couldn't get the stops when they needed to. Offense looked like the offenses looked. Special teams even let them down. A terrible punt, a missed field goal. Just like I kind of said at the top, a fitting way to end this season as just an ugly, embarrassing loss and one that's inexcusable.
The best Christmas gift we all could have asked for is that this season is finally over.
Blessed.
Now, Josh, you know, a wise man once said, you play to win the game. You play to win the game. And coming into this one, a lot of the chatter was, does this even matter? Does the outcome carry any weight? I mean, the feeling in this stadium...
It feels like it does right now, yeah.
...tells you everything you need to know. You play to win the game because at this point, a win would have done a whole lot more for you than what is currently the feeling surrounding this program. It's miserable right now. I think the words that have been flung around the sidelines are embarrassing. I think Brent even said himself, embarrassing is kind of the feeling, disappointment.
Disappointing. Yeah.
I understand that the Armed Forces Bowl wasn't one that a lot of Oklahoma fans were clamoring for, and there wasn't a lot of outlook as far as what a win here does for you. But, man, you sure don't want a loss. And now Oklahoma being dealt with that, it feels like this offseason has a little bit of a different outlook. There's definitely a change of feel coming out of this loss for Oklahoma.
Let's call it like it is. You can't lose to Navy.
Yeah.
You can't. You're Oklahoma. I know they're missing guys. Danny Stutzman, Billy Bowman opted out. You don't have your starting quarterback, quote-unquote, in Jackson Arnold. But you're still Oklahoma. You have enough talent to win a game like this. We were kind of joking about it. You know, yesterday at the media day, the 2 OU representatives and the 2 Navy player representatives, just like the size difference. You know, you're looking at like this is just a talent difference alone that should win you this game, this bowl game. And, you know, it started off great.
Yes.
You know, the first quarter, the first 2 drives went right down the field and scored touchdowns. Defense got off to a hot start. It looked like with the multiple weeks to prepare, the triple option wasn't really giving Oklahoma much fits at all. But it just kind of flipped, and the offense went back to what we're kind of used to. I don't know what to make of the offense going into next year because that's not who's going to be under center, almost certainly. Obviously, Joe John Finley's not going to be calling plays. It's going to be Ben Arbuckle, so it's going to be a whole new regime. But it's just hard to believe the offense can be. And you know, you go back and you look at the numbers at the end. Michael Hawkins threw the ball fairly well, had a lot of drops that really hurt him. They ran the ball mostly okay, but at the end of the day, I mean, they stuck on 14 for almost 3 full quarters, got the touchdown late, didn't matter. They went for 2 and didn't win it. I mean, the offense is just, it's nothing new, but it's still every game you kind of just think, and they went for 4th and 1 and twice and didn't get it. Like, it's just kind of amazing every game that it's this bad.
I want to go back to what you said. Like, I can't really remember off the top of my head the last time, and it's really hard to describe to folks out there, but being down here on the field, I'm sure you saw it the same way. I can't remember the last time Oklahoma was so far and away the more talented, traitsy, overall better team, and it didn't look like it at all. I mean, there was a point in this game, specifically in that first quarter you're referencing, where it was so evident Navy did not have the guys in the front 7 to get it done, and Oklahoma was showcasing that. But when you fail in short yardage situations, that's one of the quickest derailing of momentum in this sport. And it kind of felt like everything just collapsed. Once they lost out on a couple of those short 1 yard to go situations, the doubt started to set in and Navy got some life. And like you said, I thought the offensive line, especially early on, played pretty well. I think those short yardage situations definitely kind of faulted their confidence. Michael Hawkins played pretty well, but I almost felt like, and maybe you saw it a different way, they almost became a little bit too reliant on his playmaking ability. They, at some points in this game, were just go run and figure it out, Mike. And that's just not the way it needs to go. And then running back drops, receiver drops. Zion Ragan struggling with contact balance still. The youthfulness of the receiver room really showed itself today. I mean, what more can you say about this offense other than the fact that At one point, it felt like they had a chance to dominate in this game, and yet somehow they still found a way to give it up. I don't know.
It was just a reminder of that Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer, they got the work cut out for them. It's not like it's, the old coach would always say that they were close. This offense isn't close. It's not close.
Nowhere
and
near.
It can change a lot in an offseason, and that's what Oklahoma's banking on. But it's just a real reminder today that they're going to have a lot of work to do. They have to get better in every area, really, offensively. I was floored by the lack of Xavier Robinson usage. It makes no sense. He was a huge spark down the stretch of the season. He got, I think, 6 carries maybe it was today. It was a lot of Gavin Sawchuk, who had some nice moments, got a touchdown to start this game, but that was surprising when you haven't really used Sawchuk all year, and all of a sudden you flip that in the bowl game. Little things like that all season long, like you said, the 2 4th and 1s. Did you like the going for 2 at the end, by the way, too?
No, not at all. I was dumbfounded when they line up for the 2-point look. Navy calls the timeout, and in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, they're just looking to see. They're trying to get Navy on their toes a little bit, just see what's up type of thing. And when you come back out, we were talking about it a little bit. I disagree completely. Brent said it in the press conference. They were pretty much made up that they were going to do that about 4 minutes to go. Mm-hmm. You are the better team. There were points in this game where Navy quite clearly could not complete a pass. They couldn't. I told someone on the sideline today, there are passers, and then this Navy team was just a bunch of throwers. I fail to see a scenario where when you know you're the better team, how you don't welcome overtime in this situation, especially when the offense gets clicking a little bit. People have varying opinions. I don't get it, man. I don't know how you see it. I just didn't get it in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, I didn't. I guess the best way for me to put it is I didn't feel good about them converting it.
Yes.
I guess in theory, I don't mind it. Like, you feel like, let's go get this 2 yards and win this game. Because it was to win the game. There were 6 seconds left. But when they're lined up and they've already been stuffed on 4th and 1 twice, I was sitting there thinking they're not going to get this. And then the timeout was taken by Navy, I believe, took the timeout.
Yes.
And then it was like, they might come out and kick the extra point after Navy has a chance to talk about it and set up. But no, like you said, I mean, postgame Brent Venables said they had decided that if we score, we're going to go for 2 in the win. They went with it, and it didn't work. They said they got the look they wanted, which is crazy because a guy came unblocked off the edge and blew the whole thing up. So that doesn't suggest you got the look you want. I don't know. It's kind of just one of many dumbfounding things over the course of this season offensively, and it's going to take a lot for Ben Arbuckle to get this thing fixed.
Yeah.
Defensively, kind of the same thing all year too, where like it's really good for a lot of the time, but when it's bad, it's really bad, and they can't get the stops when they need to. I feel like I've said that on these instant reactions a lot this season. The 95-yard touchdown run, I mean, it was a bust, and it was bad, obviously, but when it was 14-14 and they just marched down the field, it was good. It was fine overall defensively. It wasn't like horrible, but they gave up enough points to lose. Obviously, what did you make of the day defensively? Some good moments, but again, when the chips are down, they kind of weren't able to get the job done, which has happened a few times.
Yeah, I think the best way that I can phrase it on my end is, I know this is a 1-point finish, but I was telling you this. There were wide open plays.
Horvath missed a lot of throws. A lot of throws.
Wide open plays. If Navy completes a couple of wide open passes, this is not a 1-point game. And Kobe McKenzie talked about it post-game a little bit. The eye discipline was kind of the fault. And look, I'm not going to get upset with that necessarily because this is an aggressive defense. It's an attacking defense. And let's just call it what it is. They've known all season long if they don't get aggressive and make a play, there's not much else that can be done. And so I get it, but I think that defensively we'll talk about how Oklahoma did enough on that side of the ball to win the game. And I'm not disagreeing with that, but at the same time, I think it's just kind of telling how confusing this is, that Navy probably should have won by a lot more.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel like the defense was all that bad. And so it was very confusing for me on that side of the ball, because on one hand I thought defensive line's pretty well. They've got their guys in, and then on the other hand, you're like, Navy should be winning by 2 scores?
Yeah.
Very confusing for me on that side of the ball, Josh. I couldn't get it.
No, I didn't. Yeah, the game didn't feel fluky. It was a 1-point game, but it wasn't, some crazy sequence of events,
Yeah.
Big picture. Oklahoma went 6-7 again. Like I said, 2 years ago they went 6-7, 4-win improvement. Felt like things were moving in the right direction. Obviously, this year has been horrific, an utter failure in every possible way. They went 6-7 again. They're 0-3 in bowl games under Brent Venables, 22-17, I believe it is now overall. Yeah. So just a few games over 500. Obviously, Brent Venables is back. That's not a question. He'll be back next year, and he's going to have a chance with Ben Arbuckle to fix the offense and to see if they can't turn this around. But it's hard to not feel like, obviously, it's stating the obvious, that 2025 is make or break for Brent Venables and for this iteration of Oklahoma football. I mean, you're looking at massive overhaul changes if it's the same next year. You could argue they should be making those changes now, but they're not. Sure. They're going to continue with this next year with the hope that the right OC, you get healthier on offense, defense continues to take another step forward. It can get a lot better a lot quickly. How do you kind of just assess the season overall and just kind of the state of this? Because, I mean, it feels like this is going to be the longest offseason ever. I mean, just ever. Because after the first year, there was a lot of, it was the year one, overhauled roster. There was some belief. I don't know if that belief is there. I mean, we're all excited for Ben Arbuckle and John Mateer, but, like, man, it just feels like so much has to change in one offseason. It feels like you're asking for a lot. What do you kind of make of all of it? And Brent Venables, who just continues, as he has a lot, he was the same way today, just kind of a defeated guy who doesn't really know if he has the answers. I
mean, my question would be, just how much of this can you change in one offseason? Exactly. I don't know that, number one, you can fix everything. And then number two, can you adjust to other unfortunate circumstances or situations that are potentially on the way? I mean, we don't know how much more roster turnover is coming.
Sure. There's the post-spring portal window. There could be staffing moves still.
Yeah, obviously, let's not be naive. There's a ton of smoke as we record this about Zach Alley and Brent Venables' protege being talked about elsewhere. And I don't want to dive into that too much, but like from the sounds of it, a lot of people in West Virginia believe there's a real chance. And I think that situation, no matter how you view it, is kind of telling there's a lot that could happen over the next few months. And in what is ultimately a pivotal offseason for Oklahoma and Brent Venables, like, just because a lot could go right, you can't rule out the wrongs either. And in order to try and adjust, change everything, the last thing I would say, Josh, like, fans have every reason to be upset.
Oh, yeah.
Like, to close out this year, the last thing I want to say, this was not an acceptable season, and it kind of compounded over time. And then today's showing was pretty telling. Like, Oklahoma fans have every right to be disappointed and upset with what took place not only here today but in 2024, and everything is on the table going into 2025.
Yeah, a perfectly fitting way to end. Just a horrible game, especially when you think of the way it started. It looked like they might blow them out and really take some good vibes. No, not only did they not blow them out, they lost. And, it's kind of, I'm still sitting here thinking, like, they really went 6-7 again. It's kind of hard to believe. That not that long ago, that was unfathomable to go 6-7. They've done it twice now in 3 years. A lot of questions, not many answers right now. It's going to be a long offseason around here, and we'll see what happens between now and September, but a lot needs to happen if Oklahoma's going to be any different. The schedule's tough again next year. I mean, it's not like it's getting any easier.
It's even tougher.
The SEC is the SEC. Like, you have to, they got Michigan on the docket now, and not like it. You got to change a lot very, very fast. We've only scratched the surface. We'll have the podcast on Monday. Also, we'll get Tom Green in the mix, James E. Jackson as well. Collin will be along with the podcast next week also, as we start to really, it's kind of already been off season with the portal and everything, but full-blown off-season now as we figure out all the dust will settle on any last movements and we get ready to really start over in 2025. Full coverage over on the website, oklahoma.247sports.com, and over on the YouTube channel, you can watch the full press conference with Brent Venables and a few players as you can just see the looks on their faces, just disappointed. It's kind of one of those, how did we lose that game, which that's a common theme the last few years. There's a lot of how did Oklahoma lose that game. And we had the latest installment, one of the more egregious installments today here in Fort Worth. I think that's it. Any final anything? I think they're trying to wrap up here, so we should get out of here.
I mean, props to these guys doing their job. We're in the way, and
we're in the way.
We'll see how this goes, folks. Strap in. It's going to be busy.
Absolutely.
Ahead of 2025.
100%. That's it. We'll see you next time. 2024 season's finally over. For Collin Kennedy, I'm Josh Callaway. See you on the podcast on Monday as we continue to wrap up this season and try to figure out how Oklahoma fixes it moving into 2025.